Welcome to Work It, Live It, Own It, a show that explores how to upgrade your lifestyle through life lessons, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Here's your hostess, Sacola Lehr. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Work It, Live It, Own It. In this particular episode, I am joined by Lucy Wahl. And Lucy, make sure I say your name correctly because names are important to me. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
absolutely.
Excellent. So Lucy, well, I met Lucy a couple of weeks ago, and you are the first professional organizer I've ever had the pleasure of meeting.
Amazing. Oh, Yay. I'm so honored to be the first. Hooray.
And so I just had to bring her on and join the Work It, Live It, Own It community, because I think this is something I need personally, because there's a disconnect between my work life and my personal life. And I wanted to bring her on so she can provide tips for renters, homeowners, and also other realtors, because we advise our clients all the time about staging the homes properly to get more bang for the buck when they sell. And then sometimes sellers just don't listen to us and think that we're just blowing smoke. And so I wanted to bring a professional organizer on to actually talk about these things and how we can actually organize our lives. And Lucy, you started your company, LMW Edits, LLC, in 2014.
Yes, and I did.
The thing I love about getting to know you and your business, because I went on your website and I was amazed because you actually bring common sense in organizing solutions to the modern urban living or way of life. And I think you mentioned talking about how having an organized home is the foundation of a beautiful life that prioritizes the most important things that we should focus on, like our relationships, our activities, commitments. These are the things that really matter most. So I was like, I know she's a perfect fit for the Work It, Live It, Own It community. But I also love your story too, because you said you are no stranger to organization. You even organized, fun fact, Lucy organized every crayon box she ever owned in rainbow color.
It's true.
And I think at the age of 14, you conducted a semi-annual closet edit. Well, ever since you were 14.
That's right. At least twice a year. Get that closet cleaned out.
Oh my goodness. And then you're a well-rounded woman, an individual, because you say among just being with your family and your friends as that go-to shopping companion, because everybody needs that. I know I need that, or a fashion advisor, because we get stuck in a rut sometimes, even when it comes to our choices of clothing. You describe your personal style as something that's with a sense of fun. And I love that. Classic and ladylike. I was like, oh yeah. We vibe. We're on the same level. But at the same time, you don't shy away from bold colors either.
No. In fact, I would probably be wearing a pink shirt right now if I didn't come from organizing.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's totally okay. But you also are a community volunteer. You're a board member with a company in San Francisco. So, Lucy, welcome to the Work It, Live It, Own It community. Again, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. It's a pleasure. So, Lucy, can you share with us some key strategies for homeowners and renters when it comes to decluttering and organizing our lives effectively in order to create a more comfortable and inviting environment? Is there even such a thing where we can actually take the time to do this? What are some key strategies or your go-tos?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is don't go buy anything. Often people want to go buy a container or a cool device that's supposed to fix something. And when I organize, buying things is the very end of the process. Like that's, we're 75% there before I even go to the container store. So don't buy anything, first of all. But second of all, when you're decluttering, especially if you're dealing with like your whole living space is a little bit cluttered, and that's kind of how it's always been, bite off a little bit of it at a time. Like pick a drawer, pick a shelf, a top of a desk or something, a kitchen counter. Just do that, focus on that, get a quick win, and then that'll sort of get you motivated to work on other parts of the house. I see people get really overwhelmed if they go, this weekend, I'm going to declutter my whole house. Like that, no, that's not realistic. You've got other stuff to do on the weekend. Like just spend a couple of hours going over part of it, and that'll sort of get you into the habit of, okay, I can do this. I can make these decisions. I can get it done. So yeah, those are two of my tips that maybe don't get talked about as much as, not buying anything and then just like taking it a little piece at a time.
You caught me. I'm guilty. Because the first thing I think of, I'm going to organize. I will go to Ross. I'll go to TJ Maxx. I'll go to Home Goods, some other store like that. And I'll start trying to buy these nice little, because you see it on Pinterest. You see the nice little containers. And and I feel like, okay, that's really going to help me get organized. And you just said, don't buy anything. So thank you for saving my wallet.
Yeah. It's sometimes when I run across people who have a lot of containers, which I do when I'm doing organizing projects, and they'll want to be like, okay, I'm going to put it in this container. And I'm like, do you want to be organized or do you want to be containerized? Those are two very different things. Like I could put a bunch of stuff in containers and put them on a shelf and it will look pretty. And if you still can't find anything, that's not organized. It's just stuff in containers. Because the whole reason to get organized is it makes your life easier. And your life is not easy if you can't find stuff, right?
Exactly right. Man, you're knocking me out the park. Wow. So thank you again for saving my wallet. Thank you. My husband is thanking you right now as well. So are there some common challenges? Thank you for sharing those key strategies. Are there some common challenges that homeowners and renters face when trying to organize their homes? And how can a professional organizer assist in overcoming these challenges? Because I know you do this in person, but you also offer virtual consultations.
I do.
So what do you find as some common challenges?
So a common challenge is people want to keep things just in case. And the phrase just in case, for me as a professional organizer, is my indication to ask more detailed questions. Because if you keep everything just in case, you are giving up your home to the storage of things that you don't use all the time. And of course, there are large homes that fit more stuff. But I will tell you, every single client at some point has said something to me like, you know what the problem is? The problem is I don't have enough storage space. And I have been in a variety of home sizes, including about as large as you can possibly imagine. And everyone says this. So that says to me, it's not about the space. It's about the stuff. Because the limit to the amount of storage you can fill does not exist. Like we can fill up houses and storage units and cars and garages, and so it comes back to, what do you really need and use in your life? Not in the life that you want to live in 5 years, not in the life you lived when you were growing up, not in the life you kind of like to be living in a different place, in the life you live now in this home. And that's a big challenge for people because it comes back to kind of like being present in the space that you live in rather than living for a different future. So it's things like, why do we still have a snowboard if the only person you snowboarded with is an ex that you broke up with 7 years ago? Like that kind of stuff. Or like, oh, I'm going to keep this just in case because I might need it again. Okay, well, let's ask ourselves, what's the case that you would need it for? How likely is that to happen? And if you didn't have this thing, what would you do instead? And how hard is that? And how expensive is that? And the answers to those questions will be different with different people, depending on the object, depending on their situation. But asking those questions allows you to get past just in case and to what's really going to be relevant for your specific life and your specific space.
Yes. I love that. Okay, I feel like she's just whapping me on my hand right now.
This is not personal and targeted. This is just
I know.
what I see with my clients. And I've had a lot of clients over 9 years, so there's some data that comes out of that.
Right. You gather a lot of data, but now what about, because I'm on the opposite spectrum. I can be one of those people. I'm not a hoarder, but then I can just clean out. And then I'm guilty of, oh man, I should have kept that.
Ooh.
So
yes.
How do you help someone like me who is, I'll go on a tear and I will just wipe. I'll be like, this is going. And then I'm going, wait a minute. I thought I had that.
Yeah.
And then I realized I must have threw it away by accident and not even really thinking about it. So you have any tips for people like me who do that?
Yeah, I do see that sometimes as well. I think and what I tend to think for both sides of the coin, it's important to go through things methodically. You don't want to just keep it all by default, and you don't want to just get rid of it all by default. Taking the time to go through individual item by individual item, it takes longer. It's more annoying. I totally realize that that's part of why you want a professional organizer to help, because we can help that process go faster. But when you do that, it gives you a lot of information. Like, it tells you, oh, I tend to buy this kind of thing and then toss it all the time. Maybe I should stop buying that kind of thing. Or, oh, I'm always trying to fill this need with stuff that isn't quite good enough. Maybe I should just buy the thing I really want and get rid of the things that aren't as good. And this is only information you can get by actually like sorting out your stuff and going through it. And I wish there was a faster way to do it, but ultimately there's not.
Well, you know what? I think that applies in a lot of various aspects of life.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, especially in this day and age, where we are so plugged in to technology or streaming, I can pause, I can record, I can do this on demand. If it's not an instantaneous download, it's taking too long, or, people start getting antsy or they lose patience. So I like that principle. Things take time. And then another thing you mentioned that was really key to me that stood out is maybe we should stop buying the cheaper version or the not as good quality version of something, and let's focus, or maybe even save up for the thing that I really truly want. I did that with my car. I had so many cars, and I kept trading cars. And then I finally said, you know what? The next automobile that I'm going to get is going to be the car that I want. And by far, that is the car that I've had the longest. And I tell anybody, they're like, are you going to trade it in? No, I'm going to ride that thing till the wheels fall off and put some more wheels on it. Because when you have good quality things that you want or pieces that you love, they'll stick around, or you tend to treat it a lot better.
It's so true. And I really talk about that with my clients, because even some of my wealthier clients, they really feel like I got to get a deal every time. And I find that organized people don't shop as often, and they don't spend as much money overall, because they're not rebuying stuff, and they're not feeling like they need to have 6 backups because they don't know where the first 5 are. So then this is part of why when I talk to people about should you hire an organizer, should you not, obviously it is an expense. It's a luxury. I'm very well aware that what I do is a luxury. But over time can save you money.
Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because if you buy a less expensive version that may not last as long, you're constantly spending more money to buy another mock-up or the exact same thing, instead of just saving up for the thing that you want. And you are true. Wealthy people are always looking for a deal. That's why they're wealthy.
Oh yeah.
Because they're very selective about what they want, but they also want a good deal. Just like anybody, they want a good deal.
Exactly. Well. We all love a deal. I mean, that's what ties us together as humans.
Yes, absolutely. That's our shared experience. Everybody wants a good deal. So now when it comes to improving the functionality and the aesthetics of a living space, because not only should it be well organized, but it also should have a beautiful surrounding. I think we should all live in beautiful surroundings, even if it's not the most ideal living space that we
Yeah.
have. What are some top tips that apply to both homeowners and renters, regardless of their long-term plans for a property?
Sure. I always say this, and it's hard to see it for yourself until you try it in your own space, but fewer objects looks more expensive. So with decorative, like for example, like behind you, that looks gorgeous, and you just have like three things. You don't have a bunch of things on the surface. There's something about a few select things that you find especially beautiful or meaningful placed carefully that look so much more luxurious and expensive than a lot of little things that individually you like, of course. Like we only buy things we like, right? But too many in the same place just sort of cheapens the aesthetic of your space. And so I will often invite a client to take everything out and only put a couple things back in and see what it looks like and see how that feels. And often they really like that. And it's our compulsion, right, is that more is better. It's like, I'm going to, like the whole thing about the containers, right? Like I'm going to buy more things to make my space better. But if you remove things, it can actually improve stuff as well.
I think it also decreases the feeling or sense of overwhelm and anxiety
Yes.
too. And I don't
Yes.
think people make
100%.
that connection, because if I see a lot of stuff, if I see clutter, I'm like, ugh,
Yeah.
I can't,
Yeah.
I can't take it. And so I had to learn that lesson too, because right after we got married, family just wanted to give us everything. They wanted to give us old
Oh.
silverware, old cutlery, old
Yeah.
plates, pots, pans, furniture,
Oh yeah.
bric-a-bracs, and all these things. And so when we finally, it took us 10 years after we got married and we moved away from our hometown, we got rid of a lot. When we moved, we downsized from a 3-bedroom house to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment because we were
Mm-hmm.
living in a different city. Cost of living was a little bit more. But when we moved in, we had a table, a few chairs. We didn't even have a living room set anymore because we got rid of everything. And so we kind of started from scratch. And then we were very selective about
Mm-hmm.
the pieces of furniture that we brought in, and still to this day. So that is a good lesson, because a lot of people think the more stuff we have, we got to fill every corner, every nook and
Yeah.
cranny. No. But again, talking
Yeah.
about that psychological benefit, can you give us some more insight on the psychological benefits of living in an organized and clutter-free home, and how can this contribute to a better life?
Oh, sorry. Could you repeat it? You froze a little bit for me on my end.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we were talking about the psychological benefits of living in an organized and clutter-free home for both homeowners and renters. Can you provide or contribute more insight on how this can contribute to a better quality of life?
Yeah, absolutely. So there has been some really interesting research that indicates that the presence of clutter will raise your cortisol levels. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and sort of increasing baseline cortisol can have a negative impact on your cardiac health. It stresses your heart. So we don't want to live with elevated cortisol. Obviously, there are a lot of things that contribute to this, work stress, family stress, all kinds of stuff like that. But having a space that's peaceful and not cluttered can help bring down your cortisol and give you a nice lower baseline that's better for your long-term health. And I will say, because sometimes I get people, oftentimes like the spouse of the person who hired me will say, "Oh, I don't care. I don't mind living. But this is nice. This is what I'm used to." This effect happens whether or not you like or don't like clutter. Like you can be like, "Oh, I'm fine with it," but your cortisol levels will still be higher. So that's something to think about in terms of the impact on your life. I mean, a lot of my clients will say something to me like, "Oh my God, I can breathe again," or "I feel like I lost 10 pounds." I mean, it's a truly visceral feeling to live in a more clutter-free space.
Well, look, we know that increased stress increases cortisol, which does increase weight. So I'm just making that connection. Hey, if I have a really organized and well clutter-free home, I could probably lose a few more pounds, right? Because it is true.
I
I
mean,
do.
it's
Hey,
possible.
hey. I mean, I think about it this way. If I wake up in the morning and I see a sink full of dishes because I was too tired to take care of those dishes the night before, I I become aggravated or my
Yeah.
anxiety levels do increase. Whether versus if I walk into a kitchen where the countertops are not as cluttered, I feel more at peace. I really truly do. If I go into someone's
Yeah.
home where I can't really see the floor, I'm wondering, okay, what's going on? What I can't see.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
Yeah.
maybe popping out or and I will make this argument too because I know this is an age old argument with especially with married couples. So I'm just gonna put this out there. I was talking to someone about this yesterday. I like decorative pillows on my bed. My
The
husband says
decorative
they have
pillows.
no
Yes.
purpose. Yes, the decorative pillows argument, guys. Put in the
Yes.
comments below if you have the same argument. But still to this day, my husband and I have been married for 19 years and we still have this discussion about decorative pillows. I was like, look, when I walk into my bedroom and I see them all sitting up pretty on the bed, I'm happy. And if the wife is happy, guess what? You're happy. So
Exactly. Happy wife, happy life.
that's right. Now, you already said that the first step is not to go out and buy anything when it comes to organization. But are there any budget friendly organization and staging ideas that homeowners can implement to improve the marketability of their homes without breaking the bank?
Yeah. In terms of marketability, from what I understand, I'm not obviously not a real estate expert, but you want to see as little as possible. Like it's got to be a blank slate. Someone needs to be able to imagine themselves living there and not see your stuff. And so the more you can hide things, the better. And the more you can hide them in the parts of the house that already exist, like cabinets that are already built, shelves that are already built, drawers that are already there. More containers that are visible is actually not great, with the exception of a pantry. If you have a pantry and you can style that sucker, people will love
Mm-hmm.
it.
Right.
And in pantries, making it look pretty is all about just the same size, shape, color of bins. Matching bins do something for our eyes. And there are great things available at like Target, Walmart. Target has some great new stuff. I was just in there shopping for a client the other week. I was like, oh yeah, they got some good stuff. But it's when you're thinking about aesthetic, the more that something can sort of visually recede and not stand out, the better. And when everything's the same material, the same color, it recedes more. So mismatched bins, totally fine if you're just getting organized in a place that you live and that works for you. Awesome. If you're doing it for staging, you want it to match and look pretty.
Right. And that reminds me of a episode that I did a couple of months ago about the emotional dealing with the emotional side of selling a home. I
Mm,
have helped clients in estate sales or people who have lived in a home for 40 years. They said, well,
yeah.
we're not ready to move right now. The couple who stayed in their home for 40 years, but have a lot of stuff. And I said, well, look,
Yeah.
if you're not ready for another year, this is the perfect time to declutter and
Yes.
get rid of things that you have not used in the past 2 to 3 years. I know you might, but I may need this someday. You haven't used it in the past 2 and 3 years. It may be time to let it go. And if you're talking about downsizing anyway, now is the perfect time not to wait right before you get ready to sell the home to go ahead and take care of that aspect so that way it's less for you to move
Yeah.
into removing those photographs off the wall. I know you may have beautiful family photos, but again, it's about the buyer trying to see themselves living in the home, and they can't see themselves living in a home if all your personal items are out. And even during that time, I had one couple who looked at the home. The home was nice, but they were like, I can't see if my furniture is going to fit here. And I tell them, one, don't buy a house based on your current furniture. Because
No.
if you Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Because one, you could sell the furniture you have unless it's like an heirloom piece that you just really truly love. But if you're not really attached to this, like, no, it's coming with me everywhere. For example, my mother had a German hutch. At one
Mhm.
point, she still has, or she had an Italian love seat rocker. It actually rocked. And so she carried those things with her for years. And she finally got rid of those pieces because she said, one, they were too big. The hutch was too big. And then the love seat, she gave it to someone else who could really appreciate it and value it. So never ever buy a home based on your current furniture. That's a no no. But yes, depersonalize the home, declutter. And hey, guys, you can take the containers with you to your new space. Just
Exactly. I
saying.
mean, I that's why I'm big on like really simple containers that can be repurposed. Like there are really simple containers made out of plastic. Container Store has them, IKEA has them. They have sort of a built-in handle and they come in a bunch of sizes and colors. Those you can use in a pantry, you can use in a bathroom, you can use in a closet. Like they will go with you. The more custom and built in your solution, the less transportable it is. And so I really only tell people who are like in their sort of forever home type deal to really invest in, you know, the closet build outs or the built-ins or the really specific containers that are like very calibrated to whatever the item is, because that's just not as flexible and it doesn't work as well when you're moving. But yeah, I have helped some clients do downsizing, and you're absolutely right. Giving yourself plenty of lead time is really helpful, because if you wait until the last second, what's going to end up happening is either you will have a miserable few weeks trying to go through all the things in your whole life, which is awful, and you won't be able to get to everything. And, you know, you'll feel like stuff is going through the cracks and you will feel very out of control. And that is really uncomfortable. Or everything will get packed up, it'll get moved to your new place, and unpacking will be just as bad. So giving a lot of lead time is really helpful. And it's really smart of you as a realtor to advise people to do that, because often I hear from realtors and they're like, I've got these clients, they need to clean out, they're downsizing, we've got a month. And I'm like, I kind of can't help you at this point. Like there's not enough impact I can make in 1 month with people who are already not super stoked that they have to downsize and are not going to be making decisions quickly because it's painful.
And it's more stress for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
And so if you take something away, if you are looking to sell your home, because on average, people tend to live in their homes 5 to 7 years anyway in the United States, maybe some longer. However, do not wait to the last minute. And I know sometimes you can't help it, especially if it's a job transfer. So this is
Yeah.
the part where you need to start practicing the organization and declutter tips that Lucy is sharing today, and keeping that in the forefront so that way you can focus on the more important things in life. But if you are deciding to move, or you are deciding to buy a home and you're a renter, or you're upgrading, upsizing, you're downsizing, don't wait until you've contacted a realtor and say, hey, we're thinking about selling our home, we're thinking about moving. And then the realtor has to say, give you that suggestion, hey, you might need to start moving things in a pod or something like that because you've got a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Again, less stress, make it a less stressful transaction or process for you. And speaking of that, if it's a family with children and pets, Lucy, what tips do you have for people who have children or even pets? How can you can help them to declutter or even organize their home when they're putting it on the market?
Yeah, with kids, I mean, the thing with keeping organized with kids is it's about two things. It's about modeling and it's about teaching. So I see a lot of my parent clients try and do stuff for their kids because it's faster and easier. And I totally get the impulse, because you're like, I just can't. I'm just going to throw out some toys while they're gone. They won't even notice. But the problem is that's a short-term fix. And then you get to have like kids who are school age and kids who are high school age who are now going to be really upset with you when you try and do that, but they don't have the skills to work on it with you because you haven't been bringing them along and teaching them the whole time and modeling the skills in your own life. So when I talk to parents, it's really about like, okay, as a family, like decluttering periodically needs to be a thing that you normalize. And you do it to your stuff, and then you help them do it to their stuff. And it becomes, it's not, and then it doesn't become this traumatic experience where they're having stuff taken from them, but it's more like, this is part of life. I need to declutter, and then new things will come into my life, and then we repeat the cycle, and that's okay. Giving them sort of that sense of like security that decluttering isn't dangerous. In terms of getting ready for moving, just like with adults, it's a great time to slim down the collection overall. Especially with kids, you could really get kids excited about a move. Like, oh, we're going to be in this new neighborhood and like this new house, and it's going to be cool. And, you know, you're going to have a different space. Like, let's plan the space. Like, where are you going to want your toys? Where are you going to want your desk? Like, make them part of the process. Because when it happens to people, no matter how old you are, if you're an adult, if something is happening to you, you're going to cling really tightly to the things that you can control. And so then it's going to be harder to declutter. So with decluttering and organizing with kids, think about the long game.
I like that you said modeling and teaching.
Yeah.
And that is so true, because I have seen parents every couple of years, they'll do a Goodwill or whatever organization that they want to donate to. And they'll have their kids go through and say, okay, now select toys that you have not played with in a while that you want to share with another little boy or girl.
Yep.
And so, and I've seen it in my own family where the parents are saying to the kids, okay, you put all these toys out. Where did they go? And the kids know, I need to pick up my toys. I need to put them in a bin over here because now I'm done playing. And that teaches them, one, to clean up right after, you know, and it's okay. You're going to make a mess sometimes, but it's important to clean up right after. Even it's just like cooking. That's the thing that I'm still trying to learn. Clean up as you go. So you don't have this huge mess after the fact. And then you're dog tired, because once you sit down and eat, you're done. So just modeling and teaching, that's wonderful. And then for pets, I would say, I always tell mine, you know, make sure that the litter boxes are clean.
Yeah.
Food dishes, if they're out, make sure they're clean. There's not a lot of food or things going around. If they have a toy, kind of minimize the toys that are out, especially for dogs or animals, but make sure that your home smells fresh. It doesn't smell like pets have lived in it for a while. Well, Lucy, thank you so much for these valuable tips. I've already taken away so many good tips. One, don't head out to the store right away and buy things. To take my time, and even if it's just one drawer at a time, take that time. It's going to take some time. It's okay. But then once it's done and you keep doing it, you keep modeling it, you keep practicing it, it will become easier over time. It may feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, but it will get easier over time. And then you touched on when it's time to sell or move, whether you're a renter, don't fill every corner with things or feel like you have to have things there. And then some people do. Some people just psychologically feel like there's a blank space. I've got to put something in there. But I've learned along the way, have a nice piece of art, something with a lot of color in it, because I can have a neutral palette with my bedspreads or things like that, but my pillows can pop or a piece of art can pop. And instead of buying covers, I've learned to sew and make different pillow covers so I can change the colors of my pillows. So I've learned some things along the way, but you just solidified some things for us to make sure that it's going to take time, but it's so worth it. Also, to buy good quality products, things that we don't feel like we have to keep buying. Like, I know I really want that KitchenAid mixer, so I'm going to have to talk to my husband about it, because you have that one component can do so many different things. Instead of buying all these other different kitchen gadgets, and I can have this one thing. And then buying containers. If we do need to buy containers, that's the last step. Or we buy things, and you said that's the last step we need to do.
The last step.
But if we are going to have containers, or for staging, or just for our purposes, buy the same type of containers because it looks more appealing. But most importantly, psychologically, it can reduce your cortisol levels. It can reduce your stress and your anxiety. And it's your haven, it's your home, whether you're
Yes.
renting or you're a homeowner, and it doesn't matter, tiny house to a mansion.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a great, beautiful space, and it is beneficial for our health. So, Lucy, thank you so much. I think Lucy needs to write a book if
I
you
have an
haven't written
ebook
one already.
available.
You do. Well, tell us,
I
where can we
do.
find this ebook? What is it called?
Yeah, so it's called
Was
the
it?
LMW Edits Method. It is available on my website. It is also on Amazon, although I have no idea how you would find it there. It's up there somewhere. Um, but yeah, everything is on my website. I have a bunch of freebies on my website. You can watch some webinars. There's some free stuff you can download. I have my ebook, and I have guides that you can purchase to organizing 4 of the most popular spaces that I do in homes: closets, kitchens, home offices, and kids' rooms. So those are resources as well. And like you mentioned earlier, I work in person here in San Francisco, but I also work virtually, and that can be a really nice solution for someone who's looking for like a little lower time commitment, lower price type of situation, getting some help organizing.
Right. So if you're one of those people who are a get it done type person, then you might want to reach out to Lucy and set up that virtual consultation. What is your website? We're going to put it in the show notes anyway, but just for those who may be on the road or listening, what is your website?
It's lmwedits.com, and I am at lmwedits on all the socials.
Okay, you guys heard it here. Now, rapid fire question before we go.
Okay.
Any tip that you would do, because your story was phenomenal. You didn't start off, even though organization was probably in your blood from the time you were young. This is not something that you've always done. This was not your career. You just started this in 2014. Any advice or tips that you can provide the audience on how to work it, live it, own it in their everyday lives?
Ooh, you'll get imposter syndrome and do it anyway. I still feel, going up to the first session for each new client, total butterflies, and I don't know if I can do this, and gosh, this is going to be a challenge. And then every time I get into the session and I do what I know how to do, and it starts to flow, and the client's happy, and we do it. So the feelings will happen, and just do it anyway.
You know what? You're the second person I brought on as a guest, and they did the same thing. They said the same thing. Just do it anyway.
Yeah.
You may be scared. You may be fearful, but imagine what you would do on the other side of fear.
Yeah. And knowing that, like, if you're not scared, there's probably something wrong.
Right.
You know,
I always get
the fear is good.
Look, every time I hit the record button, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I get nervous, but that's okay. It's all right. I still show up and I do it anyway. But now you are a woman of so many talents. What is one talent that you wished you possessed?
Oh gosh. I am really uncoordinated. Hand-eye coordination is not my thing. So it would have been really cool to be able to like do sports that involve throwing and catching things. I've always really enjoyed like playing tennis or playing basketball, and I'm so bad. It's just bad.
All right. Look, hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. But you know what? Maybe one day you might try it anyway.
I've got more life left to live. We will see.
There you go. Take that weakness and make it a strength. All right, guys. If you want to reach out to Lucy, we're going to have more information on my website at workitliveitownit.com. We're also going to put her website into the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in to this particular episode of the Work It, Live It, Own It podcast. If you have any more suggestions or tips for future episodes, or you want to leave Lucy a voice message, you can do so on Spotify or on my website at workitliveitownit.com. Or you can just reach out to Lucy personally. If you have any suggestions as far as future content, head on over to workitliveitownit.com and leave me a voice memo or send me an email at info@workitliveitownit.com. But most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a review. And don't forget to work it, live it, own it in your everyday lives. Take care, everyone. Bye.